Hope everybody's all right. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everyone. Santa is having a problem with his beard. Too much beard. That's all right. Okay. Let's just put this a little further back. There we go. That's nice. Let's put a little more. I have a. So, hey, everyone. Welcome aboard. This is where I'm going to eat as much beard as I am going to breed. Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. This is the special live show. And here we go. And great day to be wearing Santa's suit. It's cold and very windy outside. Actually, there's almost 250,000 people without power here in southern Quebec with the big snowstorm and storm that we had since yesterday. So Santa is going to take a sip, and to do so, he has to do this. Cheers, everyone. Welcome, everybody. And this is, I tried to find a straw. I don't have any. That's what I wanted to try to find, actually. My beard is kind of a little messy. Santa hasn't really fixed his beard in a long time. And Santa can't wear his white gloves because technology is not compatible with him. I am supposed to be flying over different countries, but I've decided that my elves could actually handle all of this on their own. So my elves will be doing it tonight as we're doing this live show. And I'll get back to my sleigh when everything gets over here. So, hey, everybody, welcome aboard to this Christmas special for the Shortwave show. And it is nice to be here once again. This is special show. Today we're going to have some stories. I have some interesting stories that we're going to share. There's a poem we're going to share also. And also we're going to go back in time a little. Santa's going to go back to some old broadcasts of the past, and we're going to be checking out a few shortwave graveyard signals. So hope that you guys enjoy the show today. And of course, here it's pretty cool. And let the beer dangle and be bad Santa. Yeah, that'd be good. So I'm going to start, everybody. Welcome to this live show. This is a show about radio, and we are here every week at 20 hours Universal Time. And we talk about radio of every kind. And well, today is Christmas Eve. And for some of you, maybe Christmas Day already, as some people are already on the Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas, first of all, and hope that everybody has a safe one. Here it's really, we had some kind of really bad weather in the past 2 days. Pretty big storm went through. And as they were saying, about 250,000 people are without power tonight across, mostly more in the northeast of Montreal. There are some some problems, but in general, here on the south, it's not too bad. It's very, very windy though outside. So, welcome to this special ho 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 Christmas shortwave show, and it's nice to have all of you here. Hope that you guys will have fun. And for those, some of you are probably not here because you're with family and friends. And for those of you that are here, welcome aboard. It's nice to be here. And Santa is happy to be here today. So we have a chat room, beautiful chat room. If you want to join in the fun, the chat room is available, and there's some great people here. Santa, as if he could send you virtually a gift, Santa would, because you're all been great, great, great boys and girls. And so you should all have a gift. I hope that Santa is going to think of you in the next few days. We also have a Facebook group where also some great boys and girls that are also worthy of having gifts are there. And when the show ends, well, people go there. It's a very active group. Lots of stuff to check out there. First, I'd like some of you, if you could check it out. There's the Christmas Eve special broadcast that is done by a station in Forest, Virginia. And it is a station that recreates the original Fessenden broadcast, Reginald Fessenden broadcast from 1924, I believe, is the year when he broadcast a violin concert and voice through radio. And so, if you guys want to try it, it started apparently at 1800 UTC today. It's on for 24 hours. It's going to be repeating next week at 1800 hours UTC on December the 31st. And it's on 486 kilohertz. 486 kilohertz. So if you guys want to check that out, especially if you're close to Virginia, if somebody can confirm that they're hearing something on 486 kilohertz, it's an AM mode. So check it out if you hear something. It's about 500 watts of power, and it's a ham station that is broadcasting with I don't remember the call letters, Whiskey India 2 something. So if you guys want to check it out and see if you hear anything on 486 kilohertz, check it out. And it's broadcast from Forest, Virginia. So hope that somebody can check it out. I'm going to check it out later when the sun sets, see if I can hear it. I think it's going to be interesting to check it out. So welcome aboard, everyone. Matt in Denver, Colorado, and DK2. Nice to have you here. Master Players Radio, Television Plus Gaming. Nice to have you here, Bobby. Morgan City, Louisiana. Dwayne in Northeast Tennessee. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona. We have Brad in Amarillo, Texas, N5LUL. We have Dwayne. Nice to have you on board. We have Randall Klontz. Nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois. RJDA Dakota. Nice to have you here from Winsville, Missouri, USA. John Omal Newell, V5JHN. Nice to have you here. Merry Christmas. Jeff King. Nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. Laura Robertson. Nice to have you here. Merry Christmas. I guess you're still in Italy. I would say. Thank you, Laura. I hope that you look good. It's my Santa suit is a little. It would have needed to be a little more. I don't know, ironing, but it's not too bad. Greg, nice to have you here. Greg Scherer, nice to have you on board. Bob, nice to have you here. WA2SQQ, Merry Christmas. J Projects, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas. John Doe, who owns WTWW? It's the religious group that owns WTWW. Ted Randall was only a employee there. He didn't own any part of WTWW. Laura Robertson is DL/KO4DFJ. So DL, you're in Germany? Blue Ford Focus, nice to have you here. AE1TP, nice to have you on board from Bahrain. Jackie Lavac, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas. DJW883, nice to have you here. Cold and windy southeast Pennsylvania. Chuck Schreiber, nice to have you on board. And 5KVO from cold South Texas, 36 Fahrenheit right now. That's cold. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from Apex, North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Blue Ford Focus is KI5YNX. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? John Doe, so why the shortwave station is going dark? Why is FCC not issuing licenses? Well, you know what? We don't know the full story. Alan Wiener also, wanted to have WHRI. The deal didn't go through. Maybe it's just a thing of, having too many stations already. I don't know. But, in the stations, private shortwave stations are never worked really well because you can't make money really off of shortwave. So that's why most of what existed on shortwave was government owned. The only people that can actually own things like that is mostly the government. And so WTWWs came back, actually. I heard it this week a couple of times, but now it's only with religious programming. TV Radio 72, nice to have you on board. And Michael from New Jersey using the new XH Data D808. Past few weeks, great receiver, definitely great radio. Elmer Time, nice to have you on board. 87LN from Aden Island. What else do we have? Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. And Patrick Moore, nice to have you on board. Raymond Martin, nice to have you here, Ray. W2CH. And Ray in Maryland, KC2NKU, down for 2 months at Merritt Island, Florida. Cool. Happy holidays. Kevin, nice to have you on board from the Jersey Shore. Roberto Rojas, nice to have you on board, my friend. Vivian Lund, nice to have you here, Vivian, from North Carolina. We have, what do we have? So thank you so much, Kevin, for the tip. Nice to have this tip. Thank you. And Cento will use it for radio gear. Stuart All, nice to have you here. And says every time I complain about the cold down here in the U.S., I swear I can hear the Canadians laughing. Yeah, kind of. It's like snowstorms. We have a foot of snow and everything's normal. You guys have 1 inch and it's like all hell broke loose. I got to say, as a Canadian, we do laugh at that a little bit. Jace Gilbert, nice to have you here. Says, hi, Joel, Paul the Cat and crew. Happy Christmas from Melbourne, Australia, as you are on Christmas Day. So, because you're the first to get our Christmas wishes. Hello, world. Just did a bit of sneaky do and got Radio Filipinas on 15190. Cool. DX. Yeah. Sneaky DX. Blue Ford Focus. I hope to get a shortwave radio for Christmas. Well, I hope you do. VT Radio, Paul in Northern Vermont. Nice to have you here. Patrick Moore, tuning in from Costa Rica. Nice to have you on board. Raymond Martin says, I have a white beard and mustache, but not as big as yours. I have a friend of mine that actually has a really big white beard. And every time I see him, I can't resist thinking that he would make probably a fantastic Santa Claus. Glenn Zeckman, nice to have you here from Ohio. What else do we have? Craig, W9CFW, Merry Christmas. Nice to have you here. We have Skip, nice to have you on board. N2EI. We have George, nice to have you here from Mexico. We have Castor Polex. Have a Merry Christmas. Nice to have you on board. from South Carolina. Shelly, nice to have you on board from South Central Pennsylvania. We have, let me try to find where I was because I lost my spot. So Rob really likes my Santa outfit. Thank you very much. Let me just go down. Greg from Southern Illinois, nice to have you here. We have, I'm close to the bottom. Patrick Moore, nice to have you here. Randy Fournier, nice to have you on board. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. Leslie Lake, nice to have you here from St. Lucia, where it's 80 Fahrenheit. You're making a lot of people jealous there. KW1161, nice to have you on board from Tucson, Arizona. Doug, nice to have you on board. And says, after 38 years of daily use, I still use my vintage Sony ICF 2003 AM FM shortwave and still works perfectly. VA3DM. Cool. These are great radios. You know, if nothing bad happens in general, it really, really works well for a long time, these radios. Glenn Danzler, nice to have you on board from Cole, South Carolina. We have Chris G7VEO, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas. We have James de Calais, nice to have you on board. Fais attention à toi, joyeux Noël, et j'espère que tout va bien. And there's, it's my firewall, John Doe. That's what is protecting me from viruses and malware. It's a real firewall. Al, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from the cold Westport, Massachusetts. And Paul the Cat gets gifts all year long. I can tell you that. So I'm done to chat. Nice to have everybody on board. We've got some stories today that we are going to read. So it's going to be interesting to check it out. And we're going to pause the chat right here. So once again, if you're near Virginia, there's a special broadcast that is recreating the original Fessenden original broadcast from 1924. It started at 1800 hours today, goes all the way to 1759 tomorrow, and will actually repeat for 24 hours on the December 31st. If you guys want to try it, 486 kilohertz. I'm actually just going to take a peek here if I see anything. 46 kilohertz. See if I hear or see any peak. So nothing here, but doesn't mean it might not make it later. So check it out. It's from Forest, Virginia. So we got a few stories that we're going to share. We got a poem also. We're going to start with Rick Califano. Richard has a little story. Says that he remembers Christmas 1968, where it all began. My uncle Mike gave me a Hallicrafters S120 shortwave receiver. I didn't know a thing about, but the next day I put the telescopic antenna on the back, and wow, there was this odd sounding thing. And as I listened, the guy said CHU Canada. And from there, it was so exciting to hear so many countries. So glad I received this gift and will always treasure the memories. So that's a cool little story. Radio, if I think radio, the only radio I got as a gift for Christmas was actually my CB radio, my Navajo TRC 432 base station. That was a gift of Christmas 1984-ish, 83, 84, somewhere around there. My dad had bought me, I wanted to have a CB radio, and my dad had bought me that Navajo base station that I still have here. I need to take it out and use it a little bit. Still works great. So that's one of the memories I have from radio-related Christmas, basically. It's funny how almost everything radio I had never was at Christmas itself. Kind of interesting. So let me just go down a little bit more. And yeah, Kevin, it's my Canadian ham license that's framed right here. This is my Canadian ham license. It's framed on the wall. So it's pretty cool. Willie Sontag, nice to have you on board from Germany. Sheila says, I didn't know Santa was French Canadian. Well, you never know. Surprise, surprise. Well, Santa speaks every language of the world because he's Santa after all. Michael Shaw, nice to have you on board, N1XTV. Anything else? Chuck Davis, nice to have you on board from the Twin Cities. Skip says sees a steady carrier on 486, but no audio. So, okay, that's kind of interesting. So if anybody hears anything, maybe using an QESDR. Okay, let's continue with the stories here. So we got a story from Bruce that is in South Texas. So get ready, guys. This one is it's a little long, and it's a story with a good ending. It says, my name is Bruce, and I have this Christmas story to share with your audience. Back in my younger years, when I was 7 years old, my dad was a shortwave listener. And sometimes I'd hang out in the room where he would do his radio and listen with him. And I always found it fascinating to hear all the different signals from all around the world. Later that year, unfortunately, something bad happened. I was at my grandparents' house, and my dad and mom went at a party, with some friends. When they came back, they had a car accident. I would never see them again, as that was the end. My grandma and grandpa looked at me and said, Mom and Dad are not coming home. This really, really had a profound effect on me, and I totally changed that day. After that, I had no more meaning in life. There was no more meaning in anything, and started being a bad guy. It started off by not going to school, and then I met a friend, and he puts friend in quotes. He introduced me to alcohol and drugs, and as I turned 13 years old, I was a junkie. I lived on the streets, I had nowhere to go. I would actually steal to pay for my drugs. Life had no more meaning. I had lost my sense of direction. Later that year, when I got my 14th birthday, as I was going to do a holdup, I got caught, and police brought me to the station. I was sent to a rehab facility, but I actually ran away only 2 weeks later. I was caught again and then sent to a facility where there were a lot of guards. I couldn't get out. I wish I would have died before going there. I had still no sense of direction. As I was at this new rehab center, one of the things did intrigue me. In the middle of one of the rooms, there was a big tube receiver, but I thought it was just decoration. Nobody never turned it on. One day, one of the guards looking at me said, that if you turn it on, it actually works. It's just that nobody takes the time to do it. I remembered my dad listening to radio, and one night I decided to turn it on. I could hear stations. It was on AM medium wave, and then there was the shortwave bands, which I didn't know were SW, as I had not noticed when I was younger. I could hear stations from all over the world on it. And from time to time, I'd turn it on and listen to shortwave. At a certain time, the guard that actually told me to turn it on said, you could write to these stations and they will answer back to you. And I thought that could be interesting, and I decided to do so. With the help of my friend, he actually gave me all that I needed and would mail the letters for me. I would do jobs at the rehab center to get a little bit of money to pay for the postage stamps, the paper, and the envelopes that I needed. And as I received the first letters, my addiction went from drugs to writing to stations. I wrote to every station I could hear on the bands. I tried to find their address, and I would get letters from all over the world. Somehow, this helped me heal in a way. After a year and a half at that center, I was sent off to a foster family where they would take care of me. And of course, with a lot of conditions, including not hanging out with anybody that did either alcohol or drugs. So I continued my way. As we went to Christmas of that year, and that is somewhere in 1978 or 79, if I recall, I actually got a shortwave radio as a gift. I was so happy that I could be back into my radio hobby, and I started writing to stations again. All I can say is that this radio, which was a realistic DX160, probably saved my life and changed my life forever and brought me back to a good life where I could actually, once again, have fun and make good things happen among my friends and family. Later in life, I actually got acquainted again with my rehab center guard that was actually living not far from where I was, and we became friends later in life. As things never happen on their own, I believe, my friend died of cancer 3 years ago. I was sad, but I could listen to my radio, even though the radio was very different from many, many years ago. 3 years ago, when he died, I went on the internet, and I always think that things happen for a reason. That night, I actually was going through YouTube videos to see different old shortwave broadcasts. And I came across a guy that was live, and it was you. I found it so cool that somebody still today was live listening to the radio and had a following of radio listeners. Since then, I've been following your show, and I find it very important to listen every week when I can or watch if I am available. Unfortunately, my work prevents me from being there live most of the time, but I love what you do. And I purchased a Texan PL 880 receiver after you were talking so highly about this brand of radio. I want to thank you for all you do, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I want to tell everyone that radio truly can be a healing source and could also help you change who you are forever. God bless. So that's a pretty good story, actually. um, so thank you so much for sharing, Bruce. It's much appreciated. I was reading this story earlier before I was going to read it here, and I thought it was extremely important to see that, little things in life, like just listening to shortwave, getting, letters from around the world, things like that can actually change a person and who you are and be a much better person later in life also. And I guess that's true from pretty much every hobby and everything. You know, you got to find sometimes you got to find a way to move away from the bad things and get into something else. Okay. What else do we have? Robert Cross is on the good list this Christmas. That's good. That's good. I'm going to have to check Mark, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas. And says, thank you for a white Christmas in Vancouver. Oh, man. Willie Sontag from Germany and says, hope you have a good and warm place. He's a Texan fan. Driver Phil Shortwave, nice to have you on board. Happy Christmas. What else do we have? RJ Dakota says, great story. Skip, hearing weak audio music on 486. Cool. It's supposed to be a lot of violin music. So if you hear something that sounds like violin, it's possibly that. Anyways, you're probably hearing it. I don't see anything else that could play music on 486 anyways. Caster Polex says, what a great story. Darn, a spur from 640 kilohertz. That's what you got to be careful on the long wave at that frequency. You got to be careful because, man, a lot of those medium wave stations could be actually going and making spurs there. Hector Vasquez, what a great story. Dwayne, very good story. Jackie, nice to have you on board from cold Minnesota. George says, what a great story. Really hope he's doing great. VT Radio says, Joe, thank you for reading that story. And thanks to Bruce for sending it. I mean, not everybody can, will open up as much as that when they send stories. What else do we have? Just to put it here. We have, so welcome aboard, everybody. Hope that, I don't know how many people are going to watch tonight. I suspect that there's quite a lot of people that are probably at Christmas parties tonight. So a lot of people that usually are here, probably not here. We have, let me just go down. What else we have here? So, we have a poem. It's a Christmas poem, and it says, I offer it in the spirit of the holiday season to all. And this is Helmut, KN4AQ, that sends this. It's going to be, it's a nice little poem here to read. So, says it's a Christmas poem. I offer it in the spirit of the holiday season to all, whatever you believe or celebrate. In a troubled world, this is a time when we remind ourselves that peace is the goal. I hope we find it soon. So, KN4AQ. So here's the poem. It's a ham's night before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and hauled through 2 meters, not a signal was keyed up, any repeaters. The antennas reach up from the tower quite high to catch the weak signals that bounce from the sky. The children, technicians, took their HTs to bed and dreamed of the day they'd be extras instead. Mom put out her headphones, I plugged in the key, and we tuned 40 meters for that rare ZK3. When the meter was pegged by a signal with power, it smoked a small diode, and I swear shook the tower. Mom yanked off her phones, and with all she could muster, logged the spot of the signal on the DX packet cluster. Well, I ran to the window and peered up at the sky to see what could generate RF that high. It was way in the distance, but the moon made it gleam, a flying sleigh with 8-element beam. And a little old driver who looked slightly mean, so I thought for a moment that it might be Wayne Green. But no, it was Santa, the Santa of hams, on a mission this Christmas to clean up the bands. He circled the tower, they stopped in his track, and he slid down the coax right into the shack. While Mom and I hid behind stacks of CQ, this Santa of hamming knew just what to do. He cleared off the shack desk of paper and parts and filled out all my late QSLs for a start. He ran copper braid, took a steel rod and pounded it into the earth till the station was grounded. He tightened loose fittings, resoldered connections, cranked down modulation, installed lighting protection. He neutralized the tubes. And my linear amp never worked right before. Now it works like a champ. A new low-pass filter cleaned up the TV. He corrected the settings in my TNC. He repaired a computer that wouldn't compute, and he backed up the hard drive and got it to boot. Then he reached up really deep in the bag that he brought, and he pulled out a big box, a new rig, I thought. A new Kenwood, an Icom, a Yaesu for me, an Elecraft, a Tentec, or Flex could it be? If he thought I'd be bad, it might be QRP. Yes, the ultimate station. How could I deserve this? Could it be all those weekends I worked public service? He hooked it up, and all my record time quickly worked 100 countries, all down on 160. Should I have been happy? I should have been happy. It was my call he sent, but the cards and the postage will cost a month's rent. He made final adjustments and left a card by the key to Gary from Santa Claus, 73. Then he grabbed his HD, looked me straight in the eye, punched a code on the pad, and was gone, no goodbye. I ran back to the station, and the pileup was big, but a card from St. Nick would be worth my new rig. Oh, too late for his final, came over the air. It was copied all over, it was heard everywhere. The ham Santa exclaimed, what an old ham expects. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, good DX. So thank you for this poem. Kind of cute. I'm going to share it actually on the Facebook group and so on, so you guys can read it. So nice little ham radio related poem for Santa and for Christmas. Oh man. What else do we have? Let's check it out. Leslie Lake, very nice story. Can anybody help me find shortwave stations on my Texan PL880 from St. Lucia? I live on a hill overlooking the Caribbean Sea. You should have, if you don't have a lot of noise, you should have a lot of stuff to listen to down there. Francis Moore, nice to have you here. Says, hi, Santa. Haven't seen you since I was 6. Happy Christmas and New Year to everyone. Jay Dakota, really appreciate hearing this story. Good hobbies can really help keep you busy and out of a lot of trouble. Yep. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you on board from Yonkers, New York. Robert Varner, party. What's a party? Jornalista, nice to have you on board from Brazil. If you want to have a poem or something read, Skip, just send it to officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. I'll just put it here, official. Anybody has something else to share? And it's hard to gmail.com. Just send it here. I'll read it on the air. So if you have something to share, please do. RJ Dakota says, Leslie, not yet, but try 11780 from Brazil at about 2300. CT Eddie, 88, nice to have you here. Merry Christmas. Robert Varner says, Happy Christmas, Merry New Year. Or is it the other way around? It's something like that. Glenn says, oh, poem. What else do we have? What else do we have? Oops. What else do we have? Okay. TV Dostrowski, nice to have you here from Regina, Saskatchewan. Nice to have you here. Matt says, load the story, by the way, but it wasn't right here at the computer to say so. No problem. George, nice poem. Raymond Challoner, nice to have you here from the UK. Pretty cool to have everybody on board. My beard is actually making my nose a little itchy. So welcome aboard, everybody. And of course, like I said, if you have anything to share with anyone, please do so. Let's continue down. I'm going to check the email. I've got a few more to read. Just want to make sure I don't miss out on anything. Okay. So we have a little story that comes from Peter. And Peter is a regular listener. Says, I enjoy your live shows and all the videos that you do. I've been a shortwave listener since about 1975 when I got my first radio. My Christmas-related story goes like this. When I was 17 years old, I got a Realistic DX 200 receiver, and it was very, very nice. I really enjoyed listening to shortwave on it. Unfortunately, about 7 months later, it actually broke down and I had nowhere to fix it and had no money to have it repaired. Funny thing happened is that when we got close to Christmas of that year, for some reason, I took the radio out of the box and I thought, well, let's plug it in, see if there's anything I can check out that was wrong. And behold, it worked. It was a Christmas gift for me. My radio that hadn't worked for more than 5 months suddenly was alive again. I had no idea what happened. I had no idea what I did, but I was so happy. And every year, I always think about that moment when I thought no more shortwave, but on Christmas Eve of that year, the radio came back to life again. Since then, of course, I had many, many more radios, and I am happy to be here with all of you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I guess maybe Santa did a little magic and fixed my radio that Christmas Eve. So, nice little story. You know, these things happen. How many of us, I had a couple of things happen like that. How many of us had something that worked and suddenly stopped and just didn't do anything anymore, and you think it's just dead, and you leave it alone for a long time, and someday you plug it in again, and it's like it's working like brand new, like nothing ever happened. I think it happened to all of us. There's these weird things sometimes with technology. Sorry, guys, with technology, but you know, I'm pretty sure that Santa had something to do with that radio functioning again. Okay. Matt, MDK2 got his chimney cleaned out for Santa, which was what I was up to. Well, I hope so. Look at how white this is. Come on, you think I'm going to go down a dirty chimney? Danny Shortwave is asking if I'm having eggnog. Well, it's not eggnog, but, you know, it has a little bit of alcohol in it, I got to say. Santa is, you know, you got to be careful because Santa's going to go back on the sleigh after. My beard would function well as a long wire, Paul says. Avid tea drinker, nice to have you here. Happy holidays. Definitely. Joseph, nice to have you on board from San Francisco Bay, California. Prasad, Merry Christmas. Nice to have you on board from India. Hope you are well, my friend. We have George says, wow, something like that happened to me when I was listening some records on my grandmother's record player. Chastang, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Leslie Lake says, Thanks, Gel. I bought a 66-foot external long wire antenna online, plan to install it soon. My challenge is making sure it is properly grounded to properly protect it from lightning and noise. Matt says, send me your dry cleaning bill. Vicky Pelletier, joyeux Noël. J'espère que ça va bien et que tu passes un beau temps des fêtes. Nice to have you on board, Vicky. Richard, Merry Christmas. And says, thank you for another year, Shortwave Memories. RJ Dakota, Santa shouldn't have too much eggnog. He has to go around the world in one evening. Yeah. But, I've actually had the elves, learn how to work the sleigh. So even if Santa's a little out, the elves will take care of the rest. Kenzo, nice to have you on board. Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas, Richard, and everybody. So let's continue our look into our little emails that we got from some of the viewers. Here's another poem. We're going to read Skip that sent another Christmas poem. And so it's a variation of the night was the night before Christmas. Once again, themed on radio. So Skip sent us, it was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, the harmonics were sleeping, and so was the spouse. The antennas were hung from the chimney with care, in hopes that some signals would come through the air. The receivers were nestled in all neat in a row, with filters and tuners all ready to go. With a strong cup of coffee sitting at my right hand, I had just settled in to some radio band. When out of my headphones there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my desk to see what was the matter. Away to the window, I flew like a flash to determine the cause of this odd static crash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave my antenna wires an unusual glow. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a weird little sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a strange little driver who looked like a hippie. I thought for a moment my brain had gone dippy. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and I got some, sorry guys, a little bit of Santa here on the way. And he wheezed and he cursed and he called them by name. Now Tantec, now Icom, now Yesu and Phillips, on Grundig, on Sony, on Kenwood and Collins. Watch out for the porch, watch out for the wall. Stay out of the way and don't let me fall. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane ride, when they met with an obstacle, they kicked it aside. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, and got tangled in wire, the old hippie did too. And then in a twinkling, I heard through the ceiling a great deal of cursing and swearing and squealing. As I shook my head and hollowed an odd stop, down the chimney the bearded one fell with a plop. He was dressed all in denim for his headphones to tail. His clothes smelled like sweat socks, and his breath like cheap ale. The stump of a stoogie he held tight in his teeth, and the rancid smoke circled his head like a wreath. He had a fat face and a great big beer belly that shook when he burped like a bowl full of jelly. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, opened up my receiver and tuned with a jerk. Then, sticking a finger inside of his nose and giving a burp, up the chimney he rose. The receiver it squealed and caved out a whistle, and the stations I heard that night would fill an epistle. And I heard him exclaim, Here he drove out of sight. Happy DX, old man. Next time, leave on the light. So this is from TJ, Skip, Array, and 2EI. Thank you for sharing. Sorry for the slight hesitations in the reading. So that was another nice poem, radio related. Thank you, Skip, for sharing. David Webb, nice to have you on board from the UK. Sheldon Harvey, happy holidays from Greenfield Park. Nice to have you on board. David Webb, nice to have you on board. And what else do we have? Greg, nice to have you on board. And says, wish you and your two cats a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you too, Greg. So it's nice to have all of this here. And so we've got, I think, one more story here from Scott. We got Scott that lives in the UK. And he says that when he was a teenager, he would actually go to a friend's house that was a ham radio operator. He would look and wonder how it worked. He would love to stay there and see his friend make contacts. He always wondered what amateur radio was. He had heard a lot about CB radio, but didn't know about amateur radio. So he would go back home and he would talk to his parents about what he had seen at his friend. And his dad said, well, you know what? You can actually become a ham. I know somebody that might help you. A friend of his was at a local amateur radio club. And he said, oh, yeah, amateur radio. You got to pass a license. You got to pass a test. So he actually did the test, but failed a couple of times. And there was the requirement of Morse code was the biggest obstacle that he had. But after trying for a third time, he finally got his ham license. But as destiny sometimes is not fair, at the time that I got my license, I also lost my job. I had no money to buy a transceiver, no money to buy anything. So I had my license and I thought, well, someday I'll get a radio. And he said later that year, his parents actually offered him a Yaesu transceiver. He was so happy, and till this day, always remembers how happy Christmas is on that day when he got the Yaesu transceiver, hooked it up, and made his first contact on Christmas Day. He says, you know, there are times in life when you lose some of the things that you love, when you lose your job, when things seem to not work right. But there's always something positive in the end. You just got to make sure that you do your best. And of course, today, he's still a ham radio operator. And he doesn't leave his call sign. I'd like to, Scott, if you want to write and leave your call sign, it'd be nice to have your call. He's in the UK. And he says, I love what you do. I am so happy that you got your ham license last year. Hope to have a contact on the bands with you soon. So Scott in the UK, thank you so much. And send us your call sign. It'd be fun to have. So another nice story of, things going bad, losing a job, but friends, family coming through, buying you a nice little transceiver, buying you a little something to cheer you up. The magic sometimes of Christmas, that's for sure. What else do we have? Sea Sparrow, nice to have you here. Merry Christmas. Richard, great talk on trains last week. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of live railroad cameras, definitely, Richard. I've seen so many things. One of them that I like is your there was a channel dedicated for railroads that are really bad, and you see all these cranky tracks, and you see the train like moving right and left, and you're almost wondering how they can stay on the tracks. Oh man, What else do we have? Brian Penny, Merry Christmas from Cape Cod. I hope everything is all right down there. Um, William, best wishes in 73 W8LV Bell in Ohio. Nice to have you on board. W8LV/VE3 pre-pandemic. And says all the best to radio operators and their families everywhere. Leslie, nice poem, Jill. I salute your ability to withstand the tickles from your beard and mustache. Oh yeah, I tell you, it's almost a torture. George says, nice story from Scott. Jim's radio check. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas. Driver films shortwave. If it wasn't for Jill, then I wouldn't have gotten into shortwave listening. If it wasn't for shortwave listening, I would have got my radio license. So that's cool. That's cool. William says that trek in Ohio. Yeah, I think it was Ohio. It's completely nuts when I see the train going through. It's like, oh God, really? They're using that? Cecil, nice to have you here. Merry Christmas to you too. Nice to have you on board. And it's pretty cool. Lex, 2006, Merry Christmas. Nice to have you here. So pretty cool to have all of you here on this Christmas Eve. And it's really, really nice. Once again, if you're near Virginia, check it out. If you can maybe hear 486 kilohertz, which is the recreation of the experimental transmission from Reginald Fessenden back in 1924. It is a broadcast of violin music, apparently, and some voice IDs with about 500 watts from what I was reading. So apparently it should be active right now. So if you guys check it out. Apart from that, Paul Walker last night was pretty cool. Listening to Paul Walker's special from KSKO, Alaska. At first it was bad on WRMI. The audio was very low and crappy, but then it came pretty good. And but the 5900 from Bulgaria was actually quite good. And it's weird because actually it came back later, but there was a moment where WRMI kind of dropped the feed and started playing some music. But then it came back. So I guess maybe they had a problem with the feed or something. So cheers. Merry Christmas, everybody. So it's nice to have everyone here on this Christmas Eve. And Christmas Day, depending on where you are. Our friend there in Australia is Christmas Day. Here it's minus 11 degrees Celsius outside, and it's very windy. It's really cold. I've been out for a couple of things throughout the afternoon that I needed because we have some Christmas dinner tomorrow on Christmas Day. So pretty nice to have everybody here. So if you have any memories to share, anything you want to share with us, let us know. Really nice to check out. I'll check the emails from time to time. And so gonna check that out. So we have this is interesting. A special bulletin from the ARRL sent to us here. So if you guys want to try that, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HARP, will be conducting a research campaign experiment on December 27th, 2022, with transmissions between 11 to 23 hours UTC. This experiment will reflect HARP transmissions off of near-Earth asteroid 2010 XC15. And the echo will be received by the Owens Valley Radio Observatory Long Wavelength Array at the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, and by the University of New Mexico's Long Wavelength Array. The target asteroid will be roughly 2 lunar distances away from Earth at the time of transmission, characterizing the interior structure and composition of near Earth asteroids is critical for advancing in the understanding of the solar system evolution. So, this is going to be interesting. The actual transmit times are highly variable based on real time ionospheric conditions, and all information is subject to change. Currently, the asteroid bounce experiment will take place December the 27th from 11 to 23 UTC, 9.6 megahertz, linear FM, 0.5 hertz waveform repetition frequency, 30 kilohertz bandwidth. Reports recording echo are encouraged. Demodulated recordings in WAVE or MP3 are recommended. For real-time ionospheric conditions in Gakona, please consult ionograms for the HARP Diagnostics Suite. So, amateur radio and radio astronomy enthusiasts are invited to listen to the transmissions, echoes, and submit reception reports via email to the HARP facility. You can request a QSL card if you want, also by mail. So, December the 27th, 2022, from 1100 to 2300 UTC, 9.6 megahertz. It's going to be interesting to see if we can hear anything. Not sure we're going to hear the asteroid bounce. That must be very weak when it comes back. But maybe we'll be able to at least hear the HARP signal. So I want to thank JW5WHN for sharing this with us today. So yeah, interesting experiment. That's going to be kind of cool to try to check out for sure. What else do we have? Max 2069, you missed the best. You missed all the readings of the letters and the emails and the poems. William, it would be fun if you ran a net for your watchers from time to time. Yeah, it's something that we're thinking about. There was Bert that kind of tried something. WF7I, and it didn't work really well. But we kind of had an idea that maybe we should do some kind of a ham radio official shortwave listeners net that could be nice to have contacts with ham radio operators. So we're going to check that out. And we're going to have some live amateur contact stuff. That's coming. I'm just trying to set up myself in a proper way, because right now I'm in the kitchen, which is kind of complicated. It's not like, if the transceiver was here in the same room with my other radios. So nice to have you here, Max 2069. We have Leslie Lake. My shortwave story is about how I developed my love for jazz to eventually become a jazz DJ with my own show on Radio St. Lucia. I used to listen to Willis Conover jazz program on Voice of America. That is cool. Max 2069, watching and listening to the stream of shortwave while replacing capacitors and voltage regulators on a barrel jack on my friend's mother's present. Driver from shortwave worked one special event station, the Transatlantic Centenary Tests 1922 G5WS, the first to get across a few weeks ago. Amazing how radio has progressed since then. I was talking with Sheldon Harvey while we were recording our International Radio Report show. I was talking about, reading, or I saw a documentary about Marconi And the setup he used at Signal Hill to do that first transatlantic, transmission. And being a curious guy that always thinks about propagation and signals, and I was, I was kind of wondering. It's like it's a low frequency, is daytime, and I always thought, how many people witnessed it for real? Because you never know. Not that I want to, poo-poo Marconi or anything. But then at the same time, you start reading, and they were saying that, well, it was winter, so days were short. And then there was, of course, as Sheldon said, the first thing he said, well, back in that day, there was no interference, really, no RFI from anything. And I know that it was pretty high power also. So, yeah, okay. I guess it's plausible, absolutely. But it's interesting to see all the historical events. It's like the Fessenden broadcast that's supposed to be on 486. We know that it happened with voice, that we absolutely know. Where there was a little bit of controversy is on the content of the violin music and stuff like that. That a lot of people are like, not sure, but it's it's totally possible. And you gotta, it must have been some very particular moment back then to witness the start of radio and to witness all of that happening live. It's, I mean, uh, pretty crazy when you think about it. And one of the things I mentioned is how I look at my Yaesu FTDX10 or even an SDR we have today, and I just think about these guys, if they could see the gear, all the radios we have today, how they would be amazed to see how everything is so much more advanced. And I'm sure they would be really, really going nuts seeing all the noise now that we have also. Avid tea drinker says favorite Relcam is in Netherlands. Interesting watch. What else do we have? What else do we have? David in Barcelona. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? Nice to have you on board, my friend. EA3IEK, EA4998URE. Robert Varner, interesting research. Yeah, definitely. Definitely interesting. Jim's radio check. That Santa Claus suit don't look too bad on you. You make a fine Santa. It's a suit I had purchased last year because I didn't have any suits, and it comes with everything. I mean, the boots, everything. It's a total. Even the little glasses. The fake glasses. If you don't have, I wear glasses, so it's already okay. But if you don't have glasses, you have the little round glasses that Santa wears. It's a complete suit. I bought it on eBay, not on eBay, on Amazon. Sorry, and I thought it was kind of nice. I'd like to have this a little more fluffy though. Put something in it, but for the rest, it's a pretty cool suit. George, we'll try to listen on the 27th. Going to be interesting. Mr. C's Garage, nice to have you here, my friend. Film Shortwave said shortwave listeners net would be fun. Just need to get the timing right. 10 meters has been open quite well recently. Yeah, we're going to have to check out what would be the best time frequency to use. And especially if we could do it in a time and a frequency that, it could be a regular thing, not always have to change. So I don't know. We're going to check it out. There used to be one in the past. I remember there was this on 7240 on Sunday morning around like 14 UTC, something like that. Here Sunday morning, here local Montreal. There used to be a shortwave listeners net. And there are actually gateway stations taking phone calls for non-hams with shortwave listeners logs of stations that they heard. And I remember that. I remember I stumbled on that by accident. One story that I have that's something that I remember every year around Christmas is, when you're a teenager and family uncles and all of that are gathering. I mean, it's not always what you actually are, interested in. I mean, you love everybody and it's fun to see everyone, but your uncles are all older, and unless you have a few, nephews or anything that are more of your age, or cousins, most of the time, in my case, most of the time they're all older, and you know, family was like they're all together playing cards and doing stuff. So while that happened, of course, one of the things you do is you try to find something else to do. And one of the nights that I was bored to death, it was like crazy. It was Christmas Eve. Everybody was getting drunk. I was probably 14 at the time, 14 or 15 at the time. Everybody was getting drunk and everybody was boring. It was like, yeah, okay. Typical Christmas party of the time. And I put my headphones on and I started listening to shortwave to see what was on. And I stumbled upon a net, which was a Santa net on Christmas Eve, which I thought was so cool. If I remember right, it was on 20 meters. And I could hear Santa asking kids what they wanted for Christmas as toys. And I could hear a lot of the stations. I thought it was cool, first of all, as a type of net. But what I thought was really cool is hearing all these kids introduced to amateur radio and radio in general through asking Santa for gifts. I can imagine how some of them must have been so amazed and so overwhelmed with talking to Santa over a radio. And I always thought later in the years later, because I tried to listen to that after the other years after, never heard it again. I mean, there are Santa nets around, but I had never heard that. And I always wondered how many of them that changed their lives and they became maybe AM operators or shortwave listeners in the years after because of a simple gesture of, asking Santa over the radio what you would want to have as a gift, Keegan DXer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Merry Christmas Eve. Road Flare, Merry Christmas. Nice to have you here. Keegan says, I was late. I was uploading my recording of 1100 WCGA Woodbine DX test yesterday. Couldn't hear it here. It was not making it. And that's when I remember that Sheldon actually sent me an email, said, hey, they did a test already in May. We heard them back then. And it's like, yeah, I totally forgot. Memory is it's tough to go by. Mountain Meddling, headed to pick up steak and shrimp for dinner for Christmas Eve. Since I'm single, probably pizza tomorrow. Why not? Pizza for Christmas. Got no problem with that. Richard Califano says, wow, I remember Conover on the Voice of America. So much fun. VT Radio, Paul says nothing on 486 kilohertz yet in Vermont. Yeah, I've got my SDR here. I don't see anything, so I don't know. And I don't know if anybody else near Virginia is hearing any of it. Douglas Perry, nice to have you here. Chastank, wouldn't it be awesome to use modern gear and listen to historical events? Absolutely. Imagine going back in time and using your SDR to see on the waterfall and monitor the first radio broadcast, or you know news stations getting on the air on AM. Uh, all sorts of experiments going on. The spark gap transmissions and stuff. Man, that would be great. Um, what else do we have? Merry Christmas, Douglas Berry. Minky Dalmage, Merry Christmas from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Hope you are well, my friend. TV Ostrowski, are you wearing a suit? No, this is my everyday gear. Imagine when I go to the beach, surfing Santa. Um, Vicky Pelletier got a question. I got a ICR 7000 from a friend, deceased unfortunately, and I am wondering if that type of radio is worth the expense as a newbie. Well, the ICOM ICR 7000 probably is quite good. Honestly, it's probably quite good. Um, I think that could make a great tabletop receiver. Honestly, I don't know how much you would pay for it though, but it's probably pretty good. William, my microphone's on fire. Keegan says this is the first time I recorded the legal ID of a Minuan station during its DX test. DX test 1100 WCGA Woodbine, Georgia. Cool. Matt says I have no first cousins, so Christmas never meant playing with kids my own age. Had to wait till the following day to meet up with my friends in the neighborhood for that. Yeah, pretty much the same here. I would have Christmas Eve with people that were much older than me. So most of the time, um, Christmas Day was more of the day where I had fun, because Christmas usually what we would do when I was a teenager and younger, we had the party at my parents' home, which was only old people and old uncles and so on, and my parents were quite old when they got me, so everybody was much older. But on Christmas Day was fun because Christmas Day was at my sister's most of the time. And what happened is I would play with my nephews and nieces, because I was an uncle. I was 4 or 5 years old when I became an uncle. So we didn't have that much of an age gap. So that was fun because now I had some people to play with. But on Christmas Eve, it was always, it's like the uncles and all of that. And they would hog my Commodore computer because I couldn't play. Because one of the other things that would happen is they all wanted to play golf. And so my dad was always, oh, can you put the golf game so that we can play golf on the Commodore computer? And of course, you could play up to, I think it was 4 people. I mean, that was a never ending game. 18 holes of golf with 4 people on the Commodore computer. I mean, they started at 6 p.m. and I think they were still playing golf at midnight. It was dreadful. I was like, oh God, they're going to play golf on my computer. So I didn't even have my Commodore computer to have fun or something. I had to listen to the radio or do other stuff. Man Max says everybody was kung fu fighting. Oh man, that's actually one of those songs that I try to forget. So Keegan says was able to null out WTAM Cleveland to get the WCJA. William, every year my great uncle would tell us about being in the Battle of the Bulge at Christmas and how the snow was up in our armpits, and my sister and I would roll our eyes. Yeah, there are things like that. And as he says, 50 years later, I saw film taken from the Battle of the Bulge, and yes, the snow was up to their armpits. That's also some of the things that we don't realize. When you're young, we hear these stories, our parents or uncles, tell us stories, and we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And later in life, we either see something that talks about it, and we kind of realize how, it's not yeah, yeah, yeah anymore. It's like, oh wow, what they gone through or what they lived through and stuff like that. Zen Pharaohs, unlurking momentarily. Wrapped all the presents and looking forward to the cup of holiday cheer later. Cool. Jim's radio check says, always got the rich uncle bragging about his stocks. Well, I did enjoy, I didn't care they were old and I had something, I would do my stuff. One of the good things about it was there was always an uncle that came up to me and gave me $100 bill or a $50 bill back then. So I end up, especially when they were getting drunk, it's like the drunker they were, the more money I would get, because now they would see one uncle give $50, and of course the other uncle was like, "Well, I'm gonna give something too," and it's like I ended up the night, usually on Christmas Eve, with 200 or 300 bucks, which was a lot of money back in what to 1984, 85. So it's like, okay, that's cool. Get drunk and give me money, no problem. And then I could go to Radio Shack and buy all sorts of stuff on Boxing Day. David in Barcelona, 16 Celsius. Hi, Mapper. Nice to have you on board from Moscow. And best wishes. Merry Christmas. Sitting by the fire in woods near Moscow. Listen to amateur station on the Malahit SDR receiver. Well, Merry Christmas, my friend. That sounds great. Jim's Radio Shack supposed to have a drastic warm up next week, spring-like conditions. Paul Steckler, Willis Conover's baritone triggered a resonant frequency in my Star Roamer's metal cabinet. William says, you think of all of those older adults that you spent Christmases was in the past, and they all are gone now. Yep. Of my uncles, if I look at my uncles and my aunts that were there back in 84, 85, they're all gone. The only ones left are a few cousins that were a little younger than the uncles. So I got a couple of cousins that maybe are in their 70s now that are still alive. But the uncles, the aunts, they're all gone. I mean, my dad's still alive at 92. And but pretty much everybody else is gone. My mom is gone. My mom died in 2008. On Earth's side, pretty much everybody. There's one of my uncles that's a couple of uncles that are still alive on Earth's side, the younger ones, but they're pretty old. I had news of one of my aunts actually. She apparently she's still alive at 80 something, but apparently she has really advanced Alzheimer's, so which is sad. It's sad because it's actually she was the wife of my uncle Andre in Saint Therese up north, which was a TV repair guy. And I remember always having fun going there. My cousin, the kids were like my age. So when I would go there, we would have fun and play. I remember, I mean, I didn't know, I don't know how we never got electrocuted somehow, but I remember that we would play with the coil on the TV. You had one TV with the case was opened, a black and white TV, and we'd play with the coil and turn it so that the picture would turn. It's like, oh man, things we did back then that nobody would do today. It's like, yeah, play with a TV with the case open, and doesn't matter if there's a lot of voltage and X-rays, and who cares? It was a very different time, I can tell you that. Very different time back then. William. So yeah, definitely, it's something to There's a little cheers for all those past that were in our lives that remember it, good memories at Christmas and so on. Jeffrey, nice to have you on board from New Hampshire, -10 at the present. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Jim's radio check. Is Santa going to bring anybody new radio? But you got to be a really, really good boy. I can tell you that. Sunwave, nice to have you here from Oklahoma. Nice to have you here, my friend. What else do we have? Paul Turk, nice to have you here from Southwest Michigan. 3 Fahrenheit blizzards yesterday. Now it's balmy 16. Driver film shortwave, bit of HD on the coils, never hurt anyone until you grounded yourself on the cabinet. Yeah. It was like, we'd be careful. I mean, we played with electronics a lot back then. My nephew, my cousin, and I also had dabbled a lot in playing with electronics. So we kind of knew where to touch and where not to touch. Still, just thinking about it today, it's like, yeah, you put your hand in that TV with high voltage and played with the coil to change the picture. William, we must pray for all those Ukraine that celebrate Christmas under their terrible conditions and hardship. Must remember that the Holy Family was under theirs at the time of Christmas. Yeah, we got to take time to think about, some people aren't having it as easy and as fun as we're having it today here. Definitely. Victor, yes, Santa is real and he's live on YouTube. I mean, Santa's modern today. Live on YouTube. He's taking all the platforms, going online on the internet. Mr. C's Garage. Lost my wife of 35 years last year. It was a very different Christmas this year. Definitely. I noticed, in my case, Christmas was different when my mom died, and when my sister died. The following Christmases, the spirit and the Christmas spirit was different. You definitely, something's missing and something's not right. And it changed. I mean, look today. Christmas Eve for me was always a Christmas party. It was always a time we did our big parties and meet with family. Doing nothing special today. Tomorrow we're going to have some friends over with some food and stuff, but it ain't the same anymore. That's for sure. That's for sure. I got to do our best, and honor the memories and try to find the positive and the cheers and the cool moments and think about that. You guys are going to find it funny, but on my Commodore, since yesterday, on my Commodore computer, I have a Christmas demo, which is it's funny because when I showed it to my mom back in 1985, 6, around there, later, it was a demo, I think came in 1988. She always laughed at the Christmas holiday when I showed her. It's Santa in a sleigh, and the graphics are decent for the Commodore computer for the time. So Santa arrives on a sleigh on the roof of a building, go down the chimney, fills a stocking with gifts. And what he does is he drinks what's on the table, and obviously it's some alcohol. So when he goes back to the chimney, he's stuttering to get to the chimney, which kind of the funny part. because Santa's drunk. And then he goes back up into the sleigh. And my mom always found that funny every time. And actually, she asked me years later when I had my Commodore was always hooked up. Every year around Christmas, she would say, "Oh, can you put that Santa on your computer that is drunk?" And I would put the demo. And actually, today, I because the demo is dedicated to a person, and so what I did is I put the demo and I put dedicated to Florence, which is the name of my mom. And so I the Commodore is actually playing it right now, and I played it I left it playing all day today, and sometimes I take a peek and try to remember good old days with my mom and Christmas Eve and having some fun, and she laughing at Santa getting drunk on the Commodore demo. And it's for me, it's like a way to honor her memory, I would guess. But you know what, Mr. C's Garage, you're here with us, and we're here to have fun, talk about radio. So, cheers, everyone. Santa will get another drink. Don't worry, guys. It's Christmas Eve after all. Um, so Greg, yep. Happy New Year to you too. I will tell Paul and Mignon to Happy New Year also. Sunwave already got Christmas. Elite Dangerous and Trackmania Canyon PC games. A new set of linens and huge big memory foam pillow. Cool. Vicky Pelletier, thank you for your reply. I will play with that SCR 7000 during Christmas. Yeah, you should. It's surely a good radio, honestly, Vicky. Surely a good radio. William says W8LV Bill says I'm a registered nurse. Very few Christmases spent with family. Rare to be at home as I am today. Definitely, I know what you mean. Got a couple of friends that are in the that work in hospitals, and I can tell you that Christmas is mostly spent. Christmas and New Year often is spent working. William says, "Why do so many radio types have cats?" 3 here at the moment. Oh, I guess it goes with the with what we do. Nobody can stand us except cats. Paul says the more Santa drinks, the more cat treats Paul the cat gets. Keegan DXer is having Texas tea brand Petite Strawberry White Tea. Cool. Sheldon Harvey, don't forget you can track Santa's sleigh on his voyage around the world by going to NORAD's Santa Tracker. By the way, I had to do a little hack for that to not work, pretend that I was still on my sleigh. So, I'm not supposed to be here. William, what's my number one favorite portable shortwave radio these days? If I had to choose only one of all the radios I got, I probably would choose my Texan H501X. I think that's the one I would keep of all the radios, for sure. Paul says if you added a second yoke to the back of the TV tube and pushed music through it, it looked like an oscilloscope in tune with the music. I got the idea from Pop Electronics magazine in the 70s. Oh, man, things we do. Imagine the things we did back in the day. The physics. I had this big physics set to make experiments. I mean, they'd have you play with fire. Imagine today, no physics set today is going to do that because they're not going to be like, yeah, no, they're going to sue us for putting the home on fire or something. I mean, back in the day, actually I had the alcohol burner with the fire, with the flames for the experiments, and there was a chemistry set with real chemicals in it. Today, it's like, the only chemicals they put in there is like vinegar or something because they're afraid that we're going to swallow it or something or burn ourselves. I mean, we had the real stuff back then. Remember, there were these kits with like, um, even earlier than me, there was these kits with like, all sorts of radioactive content, and it's like, man, today it's like, forget it. Today's kits are like so they're made so that you can't even hurt yourself. It's crazy compared to back in our days. And when we had the real deal and the real stuff, I mean, it was crazy. So we would play. I would, I would open everything I had. I was so curious to see what was inside every single electronics device. I opened everything. I would look at how it's built. I'd be amazed at what it does. I mean, man. But imagine back in our day, hey, forget it. Chemicals, fire, everything. Let's go. It's a kid's toy from our day. Oh, God. I remember putting up an antenna. I remember putting up an antenna in the backyard where I lived when I was a teenager and going up on the ramp of the balcony on the second floor. All my mom did was be careful not to fall. Today it was like, what the hell are you doing? You crazy? You're gonna die. Oh man. That's crazy. Paul says boring chem sets. Yep. No Bunsen burners, no acids, alkalis, nothing. Nothing. No. Today it's like the acid you get in it today is vinegar. It's like we have an acid here. Yeah, it's kind of vinegar. It's like it's not, I don't yeah, okay, I get it. It's an acid, but it's vinegar. you know. Uh TV Ostrowski, I remember firing ST's rockets into the air. I doubt that is allowed now. I have about 12 rocket motors. I got 12 C65 rocket engines here. Um, I bought them at Radio Shack. Well, the source, because they have no idea what they are, and nobody buys them. So they were on sale for 99 cents a pack of three. So when I saw it 99 cents, I took everything because it's like 15 bucks for a pack of three here. And I got these here. I told my nephew I got these C65 engines. All we have to do is, make rockets and fly them. But you know what? I was telling my nephew that what I am afraid today is that when I did that in the 90s, people were curious and nothing really was happening. In 2022, I'm not sure I want to fire one of these in a park anymore. Probably it's not even allowed. And probably somebody's going to call the cops if I do. I don't know. Paul says back in the day, you could build a hydrogen bomb from a kit age 12 and older. Pretty much. So anyway, I would like to listen to CQ Sentinel on 3916 at 6:30 p.m. Central. I think tonight is the last night of it. So I have to check it out. 6:30 Central is 7:30 here. So Jim's radio check. If you can't blow your finger off, what good is the kit? I had a friend of mine, and I'm not joking. I had a friend of mine. His pleasure was to actually build little bombs. And I remember I'd go to his place, and I was kind of scared. I was like, yeah, you know what you're doing, right? And we would go to this back then. Today it's like it's full of shops. Back then it was a big, big, big chunk of land with nothing on it. We would go in the middle of that spot and throw the bombs. And I mean, they would, there were real bombs. And the end story of this is that my friend stopped making bombs the day that one of them actually blew up in his room while he was at school. And that was the end of making bombs at home. But I mean, it was dangerous, and the guy could have easily lost a hand or something. These were real bombs. If you were holding it, your hand was gone. I can tell you that. That was a little too intense for me. I was not as far as that. Although I got electrocuted at least a dozen times. So, sometimes you wonder, it's like, yeah, I got 120 volts from my body a few times. Uh, it happened. RJ88 Dakota I had one of those Gilbert Scientific sets with the Bunsen burner and all of those samples of chemicals. By today's standard, we were considered dangerous. Absolutely. Absolutely. Chastang had a big chemistry set. Actually, could blow stuff up. That stopped that several times, small explosions. You know, definitely. What we had back then was much more intense than today. It was like, and it was considered like, ages 12 and up. Yeah, you can build a bomb, no problem. Just be careful. Imagine today, nobody's going to want to do that. They're going to be liable for millions of dollars for killing someone or blowing somebody's head off. Driver Shortwave, Film Shortwave says, oh, C65s. You still have a bit of model rocketry going. Try and get back into it next year. Yeah, Estes, yep, still makes rockets, definitely. Sheila, I was always the kid who took apart everything, but to the horror of my parents, believe me, you learn a lot when you have to reassemble things, and they had better be working. Definitely. I was part of a family where, the jokes on sitcoms. Um, I don't remember which sitcom. I remember one, the husband had to repair something, and the wife said, yeah, like you're going to repair that. And he would open the stuff and never be able to fix them and put it back together again. And my family was a little bit like that. My dad opened stuff up. He just didn't know how to put them back up working again. And so the funniest thing is, a couple of times my mom was like, okay, give it to Shell. He's going to fix it. Because she knew it. I opened so many things that, yeah, I'm going to put it back together. But my dad would go mad. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to be able to fix it. No, you weren't. Kimberly, K6YYL, nice to have you on board, ham radio lady. Hey, I got a Christmas gift for you, Kimberly. You like seeing outdoors. You like seeing what's happening in the you like seeing what's happening outside. I got my security camera in the front. I'm going to show you. We had about half a foot of snow, then tons of rain, another half a foot of snow, and now it's like it's cold and windy. Just want to show you what it looks like outside from my front camera. So here, just for you, Kimberly, this is what it looks like outdoors. So you can see now that, and it's about we're at minus 11 Celsius here. So just thought that you'd like that. For it's just for you, your little Christmas gift, Kimberly. Nice to have you here, K6 Wild Wild Hell, the ham radio lady. I like that. Oh man, driver film Shortwave. Although the last time I launched a rocket, the local Karen told me off and called me a terrorist. Robert Varner says, how we didn't kill ourselves back in the 60s, I'll never know. I think we had enough conscience to know that, look, we all did probably our mistakes. I'll tell you my mistake, my biggest mistake that I had. I actually had a how to control reaction that I didn't know what to do it, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I want to get in trouble. You know what a bored teenager does? He tries all sorts of stuff. And one day, I had the brilliant idea at 16 of or 15 of mixing um, the what is it? The trying to find the name. What we use to clean our toilet bowls, and it's like uh, in French they call it eau de javel. It's anyways. It's I it's that with plant. My dad wanted to do a garden, and he had purchased some the stuff you put in the ground to actually make the plants grow more. And I mixed both of them together, and it started doing a big bad reaction of boiling, and it was becoming hot. And I had it in a pot, and it smelled like crazy bad. I know that if you smell that close, you probably choked or died on the fumes. I tried to. I ran. I ran down the stairs in the backyard, and we had a little tunnel on the side of the house where there was a few plants, but nothing. There was nothing planted there. It was like just plants growing every year. I threw it there, and I swear for the next 3 or 4 years, nothing was growing out of there. I poisoned the uh, the uh, the soil with that chemical reaction thing that I didn't know. I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. I just threw it out. Oh man. Jeffrey Crobb, remember making gunpowder from the three basic ingredients. Mom didn't like the smell when I ignited it. Yeah, it has a distinct smell, I can tell you that. Paul, mixed a alcohol and hydrochloric acid to create hydrogen and lots of heat. Very violent reaction. Well, that's pretty much what happened. Patrick Moore, guys, without telling the whole story, just don't mess with antennas anywhere near power lines. Yeah, that is yeah, definitely. Uh yeah, definitely. Yeah, sure, Sunwave. James Rader, check out an electronics teacher that would hook you up to a power supply and zap you if you're bad. Oh god. Oh god. Chastain, goofy neighbor, 15 years ago, filmed himself how to make homemade fireworks. Youch. Keegan DX, I remember taking apart a couple of old clock radios and a few 5-inch black and white TVs and had a heck of a time trying to put them back together again. Oh yeah, some of these devices are really really tough to actually put back together. It's like, whoa. Kimberly, hello, Jill. It's a winter wonderland there. Thank you. Yeah, Javex bleach, Sheila, with plant the chemicals that you give the plants to so they grow. Oh man, I can tell you that. Yeah, it was like Clorox, Keegan. Fertilizer. Thank you. I was searching for the word fertilizer. It's totally crazy. Oh man. Yeah, fertilizer and Clorox. Imagine putting that together. The reaction was intense and it created a lot of heat. Chastain says poisoning the yard. Yes, been there. I was totally panicking. I was like, what the hell am I gonna do with this? Do get your hand license, Greg. Do. It's important. Go get your hand license. It's important to do so. But man, fertilizer and Clorox together, don't do that at home, babe. You're gonna tell you. So Santa is a little dry. Look at that. He drank his vodka drink and he's gonna go get a second one. So what we could do until that is there's some interlude that we can play. So you guys have something to listen to. I don't see the keyboard. My beard is too big. How about I'm gonna play a little Christmas song. I know it's gonna avoid my the fact that this is monetized, but I don't really care. Um, I will play something that I find is one of the most amazing little moments in songs. Uh, it's Bing Crosby and David Bowie, and they, of course, gathered together to do the little Peace on Earth, Little Drummer Boy. So I'm gonna play that while I go and fill up my drinks, and so I'm just gonna see if it actually is playing. I'm gonna leave you with that while I'm getting my drink. Yeah, here we go. I guess you guys can hear that.
Hello. You the new butler?
You guys are hearing that?
It's been a long time since I've been to do anything.
What's happened to Hudson?
I guess he's changing.
Yeah, he does that a lot, doesn't he?
Thank
I'm
you.
David Bowie. I live down the
So
road.
I'm filling my drink, coming back soon.
Piano when he's not around. He's not around, is he?
I can honestly say I haven't seen him, but come on in. Come in.
But look,
Come on in.
are you related to Sir Percival?
Well, distantly, yeah.
Oh, you're not the poor relation from America, right?
Ha! Gee, news sure travels fast, doesn't it? I'm Bing.
Oh, I'm pleased to meet you. You're the one that sings, right?
Well, right or wrong, I sing either way.
Oh, well, I sing too.
Oh, good. What kind of singing?
Well, mostly the contemporary stuff. Do you like modern music?
Oh, I think it's marvelous. Some of it really fine. But tell me, you ever listen to any of the older fellas?
Oh, yeah, sure. I like John Lennon and the other one with Harry Nilsson.
You go back that far, huh?
Oh, yeah, I'm not as young as I look.
None of us is these days.
In fact, I've got a 6-year-old son, and he really gets excited around the Christmas holiday thing.
Do you go in for any of the traditional things in the Bowie household Christmas time?
Oh, yeah, most of them, really. Presents, tree, decorations, agents sliding down the chimney.
What?
I was just seeing if you're paying attention. Actually, our family do most of the things that other families do. We sing the same songs.
Do you?
I even have a go at White Christmas.
You too, huh?
And this one. This is my son's favorite. Do you know this one?
Oh, I do indeed. It's a lovely thing.
They told me, bum a newborn king to see, bum
Our finest gifts we bring, rum-pa-bum-bum, rum-pa-bum-bum, rum-pa-bum-bum.
Peace on earth, can it be? Years from now, perhaps we'll see the day of glory. See the day when live in peace, so peace on earth. When we come, every child must be made aware. Every child must be made to care enough for his fellow man, to give all the love that he can. I pray my wish will come true for my child and your child too. He'll see the day of glory. I play my day for him when men of goodwill live in peace again. Peace on earth, can it be?
There you go, guys. So, yeah, it is a great tune, actually. The mix of for that time period, the mix of the old and the new, and the video is kind of nice because it's got so the feel of Christmas from that era. So cheers, everybody. So that probably has stopped monetization on the channel, but for this video, but it doesn't really matter. Tony Mannion, nice to have you here from Ireland. Good to see you also, my friend. And Bing Crosby and David Bowie. One of the beautiful Christmas songs I found. M1 MBZ. Nice to have you on board. What is Nadolig Lawin? So nice to have you on board, everybody. As this is the Christmas Eve show. Ken Lansing, shouldn't that be eggnog? Yeah, it's kind of. Let's think about it as red eggnog. It's Welsh for Merry Christmas, M1 NBZ. Oh, okay, cool. Of course, we have French, Joyeux Noël. Joyeux Noël à tous qui parlent français. J'espère que tout le monde va bien et qu'il a un beau temps des fêtes. Driver Films, take care, have a good sleep, and try to stay safe, my friend. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Don't forget, next week for New Year's Eve, no show. I'll be taking that Saturday off. We'll be back on January 7th, I believe, at 20 hours UTC with the next show. Tony, what I asked Santa for this year's... whoops, my headphones just fell. I actually have already got my gift because what was to be my Christmas gift was my Yaesu FTDX10. But I got it in October, but it's kind of my Christmas gift. Now, if I had a second Christmas gift, would be to go and get the Xiegu G90 for some QRP and portable use. That could be nice. But we're going to give it time. We're going to see when all of that happens. Oh, now I get it. My foot is stuck in the wire of my headphones. So anyways, that's we're going to be checking that off for sure. In the near future, for sure. So Patrick Moore says, "Oh man, I really want a G90." Yeah, the lowest price here in Canada that I've seen is on Ham Radio Canada or something like that. The store is called. They have it for 666 Canadian dollars and $30 shipping. So that means that with taxes and everything, it's going to be something like 825 Canadian dollars or something. They have it on Amazon, but on Amazon it's like $1,000.50, way more expensive. So you got to be careful because Amazon is really not the cheapest of all. But here in Canada, it would be about $825, and then I want to get a battery to have power it for sure. Tony, has anybody bought the Texan PL320? I recall someone on the channel did. I don't know if they have it yet or they're still waiting for it. It definitely looks like a PL330, but without SSB. So how about, guys, that we check out a few shortwave recordings of the past? Are you guys interested in a little shortwave past? I'm just going to do this. Yeah, well, for the difference in price, honestly, I don't see why you get the 320 instead of the 390. Personally. So let's go for a few recordings of shortwave from the past, if I can see my keyboard. And let's check this out. Any Christmas recordings of shortwave? Shortwave Christmas. Shortwave Christmas. Anything recorded? Wow. I just saw a December 19, 2020 special Christmas show for my own. Everything Christmas comes out of my channel for some reason. Oh man. What else do we have? So any Christmas broadcasts? Nah. Nothing much, eh? Nothing much. So something from December. We got some recordings that are in December. Yeah, definitely, Paul. Texans should make radios with RDS in HD. That'd be kind of fun. I'd buy one of those. So take care, Peter. It's nice to have you here. Tony, I'll wait for the PL340 in case. 73 KC2TEL. So let's do a little Radio Moscow from December 3rd, 1978, guys. December 3rd, 1978. What did they have to say back then?
Our helicopter hovers over a deep, narrow gorge between mountains that seem unscalable from above. Here it is, the Neon River. And here's the bridge you are building, says the first pilot. Victor Roscoe speaking to two passengers of his helicopter. Noy Indavon and Vladimir Zhuravlov.
Also, Keegan, you're right.
In a few hours, we will be sailing
Especially
the bridge that
because
has
of the
been built.
price they're selling.
Later, there was a big meeting. The crowd shouted hooray to the Laotian
Radio
and Soviet
Moscow
bridge builders
and
who
the Woodpecker
contributed in
together.
their special way to the
Oh, what was
third
that
anniversary
program?
of the People's Democratic Republic of Laos, having finished months ahead of time the work on the bridge. Traffic has now opened
What else is
on the
there?
highway. Conference board in Canada. The economic growth rate will continue to decline next year,
Oh,
and
we're
unemployment
talking about
colonies
Canada.
and largely controlled by corporations of the United States. So the discussions at the conference centered on secondary matters to a large extent, and no specific information better. According to the Research Center Conference Board in Canada, the economic growth rate will continue to decline next year, and unemployment will set another record, climbing above 9% of the workforce.
Of course, they have to talk about how the economic situation in Canada is, or the U.S., when they don't really talk much about the economic situation back then in the USSR. What is this one? Radio
This
Moscow.
is your program, Moscow Mailbag.
Moscow Mailbag. August 1979. Welcome back, Blaine.
And here is Joe Adamoff to answer your questions. Dan Gendron of West Warwick, Rhode Island. Now that there is so much bad mouthing about the combat troops in Cuba, and some people on Capitol Hill are saying they will withhold their ratification of SALT II, what will the leaders of the USSR do if these threats are carried out?
Well, first of all, one might think that
The feel of the time.
the United States does not need peace, or that the Soviet Union needs peace much more than the United States does. You see, I'm saying this because we constantly hear that
You see a
the
radio
Senate
sale on,
might not
the
ratify
SH Data
SALT
site,
II
Tony?
first for
I
one
saw
reason,
somebody
then for
post a
another
link.
reason, then for a third reason. You get the impression that somebody thinks they're doing us a favor by ratifying SALT II. One prominent American politician told me, "You have to understand this."
I'm going to give
He
you the
said,
link.
"This is part of our electioneering."
Commodore.
Well, I want to ask, does electioneering come before the destiny of peace? What is more important, electioneering or peace, may I ask?
What?
Now you ask, what will our leaders do if it's
The
not
one
ratified?
with
First of all, I cannot imagine
Christmas
it not being ratified.
demo.
I believe in the sanity of your great nation.
You guys want to see the one that I was talking about with my mom? It is. Oh, it's far down. I don't see it here. But it is there. I've seen it on YouTube. Here it is.
C'est le moment idéal pour...
Yeah. Here we go. It's called the C64 demo Merry Christmas 1989. So I'm going to give you guys a link. When I was talking earlier about the demo that I have on my Commodore computer, this is the demo. This is the demo. So VT Radio, click that link. When he goes down the chimney, you're going to see when he drinks that glass on the table, he's kind of tipsy. That's the demo that I actually is playing on my Commodore computer. Anyone wants to hear a interval signal of a shortwave station? Long gone. Taking requests of interval signals. Let's check that out. Intervalsignals.net. So, requests. WIFR, says Keegan. WIFR. And here we go. Let's go get our WIFR, man. United States. Still amazing that I got Santa hair everywhere. Up my nose. And so USA. Here we go. Commercial and other stations. WYFR. WYFR. This is a vintage from 2000. And here we go.
Sharing the gospel through sermon and song, this is Family Radio.
This is actually the first station I have ever received a letter from. WRFR, way back in 1982. Radio Netherlands is the second request. Radio Netherlands. So let's go with this. Here we go. If I can find it somewhere. Man, it's so windy outside. It's incredible. Radio Netherlands. Here we go. Radio Netherlands. And this is external vintage from, which one would we take here? External. This one, Radio Netherlands, Madagascar Relay, 1975. Let's check that out. Oh, wow, that's a different one. I didn't even know they had an older one like this. Did you guys ever hear that one?
Inilah siaran Indonesia, Radio Nederland.
Wow. And then this one. This is the one everybody knows. This is the one we know. I never heard the other one before. Mr. C's Garage, modern day equivalent, would have Santa eating pot cookies. Yeah, probably. Absolutely. Okay, Peter, I saw the email. I'm gonna answer back. No problem. Radio Canada International is next. Yes. Jim Gordon, Merry Christmas.
This is Radio Nederland, a Dutch world broadcasting system in Hilversum, Holland.
Yeah,
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. We're broadcasting to Europe on 41.61 and 49.63 meters. That's on frequencies of 7,210 and 6,045 kilohertz.
So remember
and to the Far East
WR5
on
when
19.83 and
decided that the end of the world was
25.37
a
meters,
specific-
which is on frequencies of
specific
15,130 and 11,825 kilohertz. We're still in the testing stage for the Far East, so
Oh yeah,
your
BT
reception
Radio was
reports will be
definitely good
greatly
graphics for the
appreciated.
time. The Commodore 64 was a surprising
Time
machine.
to gather around for...
So that actually is playing officially on my Commodore today. It's still working, and it's kind of a little tribute to my mom.
DX Jukebox.
The DX Jukebox. You guys remember that from Radio Netherlands? It's 1975. How the impression I feel the view is smaller and smaller every time. Radio Canada International. Oh man, I miss Radio Canada. There's actually one recording on YouTube from a Christmas Eve show that is from Radio Canada International. Radio Canada International. Oh man. Vintage 2007. Not that long ago, eh?
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
This is The Link, connecting new immigrants to Canada and Canada to the world.
I'm going to take an older one that I think has also... Well, that's not the one I want. I want this one.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Ici Radio-Canada International. Nous diffusons vers l'Europe, l'Afrique et le Moyen-Orient sur 17 820, 15 150, 13 690, 13 650, 11 945, 9 805, 7 235, 5 995 et 5 925 kHz dans les bandes des 16, 19, 22, 25, 31, 41 et 49 mètres.
Говорит Канада. В эфире Международное канадское радио. Эту передачу можно слушать на волнах 16, 19, 25, 31, 41 и 49 метров на следующих частотах 6150, 6185, 7265, 9555, 11935, 15325 и 17820 килогерц.
Говорить Канада. Добре.
That reminds me so much of my 80s, 90s listening of Radio Canada. I remember in the 90s, before we continue with interval signals, next one is going to be Radio RSA. Joel Bundy, by the way, nice to have you here from Virginia Beach, Virginia. We have times in lives that represent different things, and of course, when you're young and you're a teenager, you got this time period, and then you've got, of course, time periods of you get adult, you start working and do all sorts of stuff. One of the time periods that is kind of more of a very standard, not very, I'd say, kind of neutral time is my 20s, when I was and that's from like the 1990 to 2000 or ish. But I do remember one thing of that period is that I had different jobs, and when I would come home and be tired, I'd sit on the balcony with my shortwave radio, listen to Radio Canada International, listen to Radio Netherlands. I remember listening to Belgium, which was also coming in really well. Radio Vlaanderen International, if you guys remember Radio Vlaanderen. And there's different things like that. And I'd fill up my evening with radio listening with these different stations back in the 90s. That's pretty much the only memories of the 90s. The 90s were kind of a blur in my mind. It's like one of the boring parts of my life, basically. What else? So Radio RSA is coming up. RJ Dakota remembers the DX jukebox on the Happy Station shows. Cool. Mutual Radio at the recent Outdoor Hamfest, the guy had a complete Commodore 64 set up for sale. He eventually sold it for 600. Yeah, they're going for that price roughly on eBay, $500, $600, $700. Mine is fitted with a SD card reader. So the SD card reader acts as a 1541 disk drive. So you can go on the internet and get images of Commodore games, put it on an SD card, and load them with, the standard load, um, star dot, comma 8, comma 1 thing. And it actually works like if you put in a disk. So it's pretty cool. And it has its own menu. So you can actually shove 200 Commodore games or Commodore images on the SD card and just go through them and choose the one you want to play or want to use. KW1161 used to have an Appy Station QSL with them in a hot air balloon. Wow, cool. I got 3 or 4 QSLs from Radio Netherlands. William, Mrs. RCI2. Is Ian McFarlane still living? Yeah, he is. He is. From what I know, he still is. I actually have a set of CDs here, which are interval signals from around the world, and it's actually autographed by Ian McFarlane. If I get a little tipsy, guys, I put a little more vodka in this one. So I might be Santa might be more tipsy in the next hour. So Radio RSA coming up. Just going down the chat a little bit. Tony says someone in the Netherlands operating blowtorch on 1655 kilohertz right now, booming into the south coast of Ireland. Robert Osborne, RCI, Radio Canada International. When I was stationed overseas, that's how we got news from home. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know a lot of people did. Mounted meddling, absolutely. The H51X, I want one so badly. Jim Gordon used to listen to Arctic Armed Forces Service Radio Canada. I really liked Alan Mainland's annual reading of Frederick Forsyth's classic ghost story, The Shepherd. Anyone else remember this? Yeah, I got it. Did you? Are you the one that sent it to me, Jim? Somebody sent it to me in an email, which is a very, very, very nice. I should share the link for those that never have listened to it. Hooked 911. Anyone know of a good repair service for an 80s model GE 2990A radio? Cap replace and tune. That's a tough one. I'd go through a ham club and find somebody that's good with electronics. Jim Zhang, my favorite time was 1979. The Solar Max was incredible that year. The only time I've ever heard Radio Uganda, Radio Australia was my favorite station at the time. Okay, question for you guys. Any shortwave station from the past or present has a Christmas feel for you? Maybe you listen to it on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, a special program they put on the air. Any of you guys have a special station that has a Christmassy feel for? And like I said, it could be a station still available today, or a station from the past. Mad Max 2016. I was looking for an Atari 7800. My friend's mother for Christmas. Most of them was all over 200. I had a hard time finding one untested under 100. That wasn't all beat up. Joe Tyson. He's got the Ultima 2 Plus for Commodore 64. And Andrews, I remember falling asleep to the sexy voice of the Cuban number lady and having heated romantic dreams. Oh, God. I don't know. With that type of voice, I'm not sure. It's like, it's like saying that you got some hot dreams from that Radio Tirana or Rai, Italy woman voice. Hey, look at that. Minyan is here, and she's going into the litter box. There we go. That's Mignon. Salut toi. You guys haven't seen Mignon a lot, eh? So I'm going to spare the moment where she's probably going to poop, but that's Mignon for you guys. She's not sure. She actually isn't sure with what I'm dressed up right now. Mountain Meddling says, boy, do I remember my Christmas tree set between my electronics and everything else. My always said we're lucky I didn't burn the house down. My mom, yeah. Same here. My mom also said the same thing. We were lucky that I didn't burn anything. Ken Lansing, in the 90s, I'd be listening to what I thought was BBC, only to finally discover it was Radio Holland English service. Williams says, I met Ian McFarlane at the Monitoring Times convention in Knoxville many years ago. Cool. Jeff Zhang, the two Bobs on SRI was another favorite. Yeah, the two Bobs. There's still a lot of stuff done with Bobs and Audi online. Hook 911, have a new radio coming, and I'm very excited. It is the MCHF QRP radio. Interesting. It's going to be kind of cool. Looks like my cat Mitzi, says Keegan. The X are black and white. Jim Gordon, can remember sending you the Shepherd. Perhaps it was a YouTube link I sent. Watch the vodka. I don't want Santa falling off his sleigh. Yeah, okay. No, somebody sent it to me. I don't know if it's you, but somebody sent it to me through email. And Andrews, I usually tune to 6 megahertz pirate around Christmas for holiday. Yeah, there must be, there could be some Christmas pirates tonight, by the way. If you guys look at the bands, for sure. Oh yeah, Tony, she was looking at me weird because like, what the hell is that? She's never seen me like this, so I was like, I'm not sure you are exactly. Okay, Radio RSA, here it comes. We're going to go there. South Africa. We have Radio RSA. Coming up. That is a station I listen to a lot. When I was listening to Shortwave. It was one of my stations I'd go to all the time. So here's Radio RSA, Radio South Africa. And this is from let me just check it out here. English. Radio RSA, 1977. And let's check it out. I always thought it was a very, very beautiful interval signal, by the way.
This is Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa from Johannesburg. 6 hours, Greenwich Mean Time. 8 a.m. South African Time. A very good morning to you from the Voice of South Africa, Radio RSA. Calling West Africa on 25790 kilohertz in the 11 meter band,
25790, get that QSL card.
21535 kilohertz in the 13 meter band, and 17780 kilohertz in the 16 meter band.
So that was Radio RSA. Anybody else wants an interval signal? Let me know. Robert Osborne, my favorite Christmas station is WEWN on 15610. They do Radio Theater. They're also on medium wave stations. Jim Gordon, I can't remember listening to shortwave Christmas Day shows on offshore Radio Caroline and Radio North Sea International while they were at sea. Jeff Zhang remembers the BBC doing a nice interview with George Harrison, one of Christmas about 35 years ago. Also on Pirate on 1620 on Christmas Eve, 1990s. James Binder, Merry, nice to have you here. Merry Christmas. William, I remember Ron Klein on HCJB Quito, Ecuador, Cracker Barrel program. He wrote me several times. So did Slight Broker, who was a Deutsche Welle. My wife and I plan to retire to Ecuador. Oh, wow. Okay. Jim Gordon, I'm currently drinking an abominable beer called Mallow Laser Quest. I've only one. Can thank God, Guinness and Goblin next. So I've got the cat poop smell now, which is nice. You got to quit smoking, Greg. Absolutely. Get that ham license. It's going to take you away from smoking. You'll have to buy a radio. Stephen, nice to have you here from Davenport, Iowa. Yeah, unfortunately, Paul, you know, these are things that we learned also through time, is how stations we listened to were in, you know, awful political regimes, and it was really, really, you know, a lot of these stations we listened to were really, really in bad. You know, some stations were worse than others. It's like, you know, there's Radio Tirana, I think, of Albania, and Radio Tirana's harsh programming and stuff, you know. M1MBZ, channel 292 from Germany, has a busy schedule for programming over the holiday Christmas period. Pretty cool. Jim Gordon, Radio RSA's interval song, Where in the World Kitty, a powerful signal from those 250 kilowatt transmitters. VT Radio, Radio Romania, or CRI. Robert Osborne, whatever happened to Deutsche Welle? They had great English language service. They are still on shortwave, but only with some local African languages. Very, very small service compared to what they had before, unfortunately. You can, if you want. I believe they have a Deutsche Welle stream on the internet in English that you can listen to 24 hours. We're going to go to the Radio Romania, but we'll listen to Romania. Radio Romania. From the old days and from today. So here's Radio Romania interval signal, or what was called, if you guys remember, they were called Radio Bucharest. So Radio Bucharest from 1985. And here's Radio Bucharest, Romania.
This is Bucharest.
There's another one here with a coup announcement. from 1989. So this is a historical moment.
This is Radio Bucharest, Romania. This is Radio Bucharest, Romania. Listeners, following the great popular manifestations in the capital city of Romania, Bucharest, and all over the country, today, December 22nd, 1989, the dictatorial regime of Nicolae Ceausescu was overthrown. At 1630 local time in Bucharest, created was the National Committee of Democracy in Romania, whose main objective is the preparation for the passage to a democratic life in this country. The former Prime Minister and the entire former government resigned. Members of the National Committee of Democracy of Romania are military commanders not compromised during the Ceausescu dictatorship, workers, higher education students that were in the forefront of the struggle for the overthrow of the former regime, as well as intellectuals. Shortly after the creation of this democratic organism, the members informed the nation about the resignation of the government and about the components of the National Committee of Democracy and about the measures proposed for the next period. We would like you to stay tuned to Radio Bucharest, Romania, as we will keep you informed about the latest developments in this country. Thank you.
Ici Bucharest.
Imagine all these historical moments that people could have gone through with the years on shortwave with all these stations. And this recording is amazing. It's really, really, truly a recording of events happening. And of course, we have Radio Romania today. And Radio Romania today is with this interval signal. And it is nice to see that Radio Romania is still on the air. It's one of those old communist countries still broadcasting, which is really nice. So, Radio Romania today. Yeah, Radio Tirana was crazy. William, is Arnie Coro the Extras Unlimited from Havana still around? So, what we know, and that's the only thing, and we haven't heard anything since. Last time I heard was on a mailback show more than a year ago, year and a half maybe. So Arnie Coro retired from Radio Havana, Cuba, because he was sick. From the last a year and a half ago, info we have is that he is resting at his home. So I guess he probably is still alive. I don't even know if we'll ever know if he dies or not. I don't know if Radio, Havana, Cuba will ever talk about it or something. But from the last that I've heard, that he was resting at home. And so we don't expect to hear him again on Radio Havana, Cuba. It's sad because the Extras Unlimited was kind of a relaxed, kind of fun show to listen to. I kind of liked it. I like the style, RJ Dakota, Radio Tirana makes Radio Moscow sound like Saturday Night Live. KW1161 only picked up Radio RSA a couple of times after buying my then new Sony 2001 in 1980 when they announced they were discontinuing shortwave services. Yeah, that's in the late 80s. They discontinued shortwave. I don't remember what year, but they discontinued shortwave late in the 80s to early 90s. William, who listens to WBCQ and what's going on with Ted Randall, XWTWW? Well, Ted Randall has a show on WRMI called WRMI Legends. Ted Randall is out at WTWW. And for WBCQ, yes, there's some stuff sometimes. I tend to listen more to the Radio Angela stuff, Cuban music and so on. Jim Garden, Radio Romania, all reminds me of listening to the broadcast around Christmas '89 when the scratchy old records of Romanian Christmas carols was very exciting. Marvin Motz, nice to have you here from the Japan Islands. KW1161, did receive our RSA RTTOI service on my friend's VIC-20 hooked up with a Amsoft cartridge. Wow. I had the SWL cartridge for Commodore. I remember I caught part of a Senegal news service in French. I remember that. That's crazy. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for the tip. Nice to have the tip. It's Christmas, guys. If you guys want to do a little something, it's going to go towards my Xiegu G90. And I'll thank you all for that. Thanks for the tip, Kimberly. Really welcome. Jim Zhang, Jonathan Marks in Radio Netherlands was a must-hear in the 80s. Also, George Wood on Radio Sweden. Arnie from Radio Havana was a ham. Yep. So, yeah, I don't know if he's still active, though. TVD Exter, salut, j'espère que ça va bien. Next Saturday, there's no show at TVD Exter. Next Saturday, the New Year's Eve, I'll be off. We're going to be back on Saturday, the 7th of January. KW1161, his show is about the only broadcast I enjoy on the radio of Havana, Cuba. There was the, I enjoyed the mailbag show. Kind of enjoy seeing who's writing them. Arnie Coros, The Extras Unlimited. They have some good Cuban music. There's a few things that are still interesting on Radio Havana, Cuba, but boy, they have a hard time really having a good transmission. Greg says, I believe in Santa, little boy at heart. Yeah, I think we are all a little boy at heart. We might be getting older physically, but I think inside we're still little kids, especially with our toys when we turn on a radio and have a new radio. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Kimberly K6YY. Always nice to have you on board, my friend from California. For sure. Stuart, Merry Christmas. Nice to have you here. Merry Christmas to whatever that name is. What else do we have? William, Mrs. George Zeller. May you rest in peace. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Radio Sweden. Let's listen to Radio Sweden. I liked all the Nordic countries back in the day. Sweden, Norway, Finland. That's so cool. Radio Sweden. Here we go. From Radio Sweden from 1987. That was one of those interval signals I love listening on shortwave.
Sveriges Radio utlandsprogrammet.
Thank you, Richard, for the donation. Much appreciated. Hey, Spacebar, nice to have you here. Merry Christmas.
Radio Sweden International.
Ni lyssnar till Sveriges Radio utlandsprogrammet.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Här kommer nu ett halvtimmesprogram på svenska.
If I didn't have fun, I wouldn't be here. Part of it is because I'm having fun also with you guys. Of course, there was another station I liked. I always found it odd that they had English only on Sundays. Was Norway, Radio Norway International. Always enjoyed that too. So here is Radio Norway International from 1984.
Dette Norge. This is Radio Norway International.
So soft. I always thought that was like a very soft interval signal.
This is Radio Norway International. Dette Norge. Etter en halvtimes program på engelsk sender vi søndagens gudstjeneste. This is Radio Norway International broadcasting to the Far East and New Zealand on 15.225 MHz, to Australia on 17.81 and to Europe on 9.59 MHz.
Yep, always Radio Norway. Always some of the good old listening of the shortwave times in the 80s and part of the 90s. We got quite a few QSLs from Radio Norway. Yep. William says, I rescue old, usually AM/FM radios from Goodwill and thrift stores, focusing on Sony radios as they are just so well made. Best ones are the ones that have the little compartment for the line cord. Spacebar, been listening to Channel 292 where they did a story on Radio North Sea International, even played the jingles and startup music. It was great to hear. Cool. Keegan DeXter got my Zenith Transoceanic R7002 from 1981 in November 2011 from a thrift store. Surprising what you can get there, for sure. Very surprising. William says, I feel like a kid every time I bring one back to life. It's just usually a broken antenna element, usually the corroded battery compartment and spraying controls. Yep, definitely. Yep, RJ Dakota, Melancholy Internal Signal, Norway. Pretty cool. There's Radio Moscow. Let's check in a Radio Moscow interval signal. So let's go into our Russia vintage. International. There's so many international external broadcasts. So Radio Moscow. Let me just check it out here. So that's not the proper page. It's pretty amazing because there's a lot of different categories. Moscow. Here we go. And I'm going to find a page of what I want to have here. Let's go back here. National, international, commercial, state. There we go. Radio Moscow from 1981. Wide is my motherland.
We'd like to inform our North American listeners that 9.70 megahertz in a 31-meter band is now available. Radio Moscow can be found on 17 frequencies on 13, 16, 19, 25, 31, 41,
Thank you, Hector
49,
Vasquez,
and
for
500 meters. That's 16 frequencies on 13, 16, 19, 25, 31, 41, 49, and 500 meters.
Cheers, everyone. Good old days of Radio Moscow. Killing 110 got his license for GMRS and now looking for GMRS radios lately to see what fits my needs best. Cool. It's interesting. We don't have that here in Canada. Any of that, all of that licensing there. William says, Santa, you need to flash some old Wi-Fi units operating on amateur radio mesh networks. Jim Gordon says, does anyone remember the unique Radio North Sea Goes DX shows of the early 70s? Broadcast from the MVB mode 6205. Let's see. Huh. Wonder if there's any recordings of that, just out of curiosity. So Radio North Sea Goes DX. Anything here about that? Let me just check it out here. Radio North Sea Goes DX. Here. Well, there's a clip from Radio North Sea International here from 1973.
Il y a un unijambiste qui veut un unicycle.
Just gonna do this.
Temperaturen van 5 graden in het zuidwesten tot min 1 graad in het noordoosten. Morgen maxima van rond de 10 graden. De zwakke tot matige wind komt uit richtingen tussen noord en oost. Om 9 uur krijgt u meer nieuws, maar dan in het Engels. Goedenavond.
Wonderful radio, wonderful radio,
Vanavond wordt in de Amsterdamse Koopmansbeurs van 8:30 tot 10 uur.
There's actually a series, an 8-part series on YouTube. The Radio North Sea International story.
Radio North Sea International.
This is the Roger Day Show.
Station which was chased around the North Sea by governments, bombed, jammed and attacked, and finally to be silenced by the Dutch government. The RNI...
I'm going to share you guys this link. It's an 8-part series on Radio North Sea International, by the way. So here's the link to that. So you guys can go and check it out. If you want to have a little history of Radio North Sea International. I am actually going to watch that also. Jeff King, yeah, that's the best way to do it. Keep politics out of everything. Yeah, radio. No, Moscow Nights. Yep. I'm going to play it at the end of the show. Oh, yeah, Richard. You know what? As a Canadian, when I want to do some DXing of the medium wave bands, I start hearing the medium wave, all the AM band stations from the US. I just can't. I just can't believe how trashy the AM band is in the US. It is so sad. It could be so much better than that. At least last night, when I was trying 1100 last night for WCGA the test, at least it was entertaining on 1100. They were talking about life after death. It was kind of fun. King in the Extra says his dad played a melody from the interval signal on the piano once. Cool. Radio Moscow. That's cool. Yeah, Arnie Cora was a ham. CO2KK, I think was his call. Charlie Oscar 2 Kilo Kilo. If I'm not mistaken. Jeff saying, yep, Radio Norway International was only English on Sunday. Absolutely. Blogger Die, well, you are here, and I'll remember. But yeah, the AM band is trash in the US. I'm sorry, but that is really what it is. Yeah, there was a recording on YouTube. Jim Gordon, Radio Moscow's later interval theme, Moscow Nights, was an international hit, very popular jazz record. You know what's funny is it doesn't hit any copyright strikes when I play it. It's so weird. Jim Zhang, AM in the US is a nightmare. Paul, how's the sound quality with AM HD? Oh, it's really good. The I don't have any Montreal or local HD stations on AM, but when I locked on a few of the US stations when their signal's really good, man, it is amazing how good the quality is. It's very surprising. If you've got a lot of AM stations and HD around you, it's worth getting an HD radio. It's really, really amazing. There's kind of a push from a couple of companies here in Canada of maybe trying to push HD radio a little harder. I don't know how it's going to, impact anything. So HD radio has been like pretty much going dead. King and DXer got his own AM radio transmitter, a real radio geek. A talking house on 910. Using my laptop PC, I simulcast music variety show from 89.7 WM Milwaukee on Tuesday nights, repeated on Saturday nights. Recently, simulcasting WRMI Legends. Reminds me on when I was using my Part 15 AM transmitter in the 80s. EA3IEK, David says, I'm from the early 90s and I wish I had been able to discover radio before that decade ended. I'm sure that at the time that had to still be a good amount of international shortwave stations on the band. In the early 90s, you had the majority of the good shortwave stations were still on the air in the early 90s. Maybe you weren't listening enough or just discovering, but there's still in the old 90s part from 1990 to 2000, there's still a lot of interesting shortwave stations to listen to. The big chunk of stations leaving shortwave happened between 2000 and 2015, and that time period, that's where we lost a big majority of stations, a big chunk of the shortwave radio. What else do we have? No Robert Osborne. My income is really purely YouTube and only YouTube. Because I used to listen to the blues games on KMOX at night. I lived in Maryland. At the time, WLS for music was fun. Spacebar, I think Radio Caroline might have been still around in the early 90s. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Marvin Moss, tons of new shortwave stations over here in Asia. Unfortunately, all in Chinese. Yeah, apart from the fact that we don't understand much of it because it's Chinese, a lot of Chinese, going to an Asia SDR is going to show you what it sounded like in North America in the 80s and 70s. Stations everywhere. There it says here in Spain, the medium wave band is still alive and kicking. Many other European countries already phased out broadcasting in the band, so I'm hoping it stays alive. Yeah, let's hope so. Especially to go so far in distance at night. Greg Scherer says KMIX, great station back in the day. TV Ostrowski. Is the ICOM IC718 a worthwhile radio for a beginner, or is it a waste of $850 when SDR seemed the way of the future? I would say just one thing. Think of what appeals to you more. If an SDR seems more interesting because of the way it is, then go for an SDR instead. But I would think that an ICOM IC718 probably is pretty good. It really depends on what you personally are looking for in a radio. KW1161, WLS was good sound in stereo on my stolen Sony AF100. Never did have any radios that had AM stereo here. King of the Exeter, my dad was as a CD about 89 WLS Chicago in the music radio era. Yeah, the 80s and back in the day, back in the 80s and 70s, AM band was a lot more fun to listen to. I'll tell you that. Jeff Zhang, remember in the early 90s, the big topic on shortwave was the band being so crowded, international stations were going to have to go sideband. Yeah. It's interesting, you know what? That started to be talked about in the late 80s, early 90s. It's almost as if stations did not foresee what the future really was on the shortwave broadcasting. And all of that talk actually started before the Cold War ended. I think if the Cold War would still be here today, we would have tons of shortwave stations that would still be here. A lot of the gone stations left after the Cold War was from the past. It's as if a lot of governments decided that they really didn't see why they should continue broadcasting. And, maybe they were kind of imagining a world where everybody's the same and everybody's free and everybody's, going to be able to listen to whatever they want. But, yeah, definitely. And that's where HCJB, that experimental broadcast 24 hours on 21455 came out. They were trying 21455 kilohertz upper sideband just because they wanted to see if it was something that was possible. So, it's just crazy when you think about it. It's things really have changed. But I remember that discussion. I remember when they were, and think about the radios back then. If you had a good tabletop receiver, okay, maybe. But all the portables were so crappy with the drifting and SSB. It was not a realist. It was not a realist idea. I could not see with the radios we had back then Today, it could be. But with the radios we had back then, I had a hard time seeing that happen. William says Santa should watch the old BBC series, The Secret War. One of the shows is called The Battle of the Beams. I'm going to check that out. I watched a lot of old documentaries from the BBC. For those that are young and have no idea of how the Cold War was, you should watch the excellent BBC documentary called Cold War that is on YouTube for free. It is a 20-something episode. It is great from the start of why it happened to the end of the Berlin Wall and everything. Very interesting. Very interesting. RJ Dakota used to hear all kinds of music and things across the medium wave band. Yep, definitely. Definitely. Merry Christmas, Robert Osborne. David, if you have an AR Spy HF Plus Discovery, then you do have an AM stereo receiver. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I need just to install the... are there any... I don't even know that there are any stereo AM stations I could listen to today. Jeff Zhang, number stations. Well, one of the things about the number stations lately is the amount of unannounced, what sound like number stations popping up everywhere and never having a fixed schedule. You know, the Priam website, you have the ones with the fixed schedule. But there's a lot of non-scheduled that just pop up here, and you have to be there when it happens. This is where I like SDRs, because on the waterfall you could see if a signal pops up and check it out. And I've seen a few of them, especially in Morse code. But I've seen a video of someone actually getting one that is English voice, and it's a very American sounding English voice, which is kind of interesting and very intriguing to me. William says ACC General Curtis LeMay, who was a ham born in Columbus, Ohio, main person who promoted SSB. I know his nephew. Wow. Spacebar, same goes for the documentary Radio Atlantico del Sur during the Falklands conflict. Fascinating. Kimberly, did you use power at any point during the extra freezing weather? No, here in Montreal, losing power is a tough thing. Even when it's really bad, we usually are okay. It's really out of the big cities that is more tough. So here, like, there's a lot of people without power here in Quebec tonight, but they're mostly in north and east and more rural areas. WM9K, Mark, nice to have you here. Love number station hunting. Mostly find a Cuban lady, though. Yeah, check the Priam website. You'll hear a lot more. Jim Gordon, anyone remember the legendary Radio Netherlands announcer Eddie Starts? Was on the air for decades and established once popular Sunday Happy station on Radio Netherlands. Take care, George. It's nice to have you here. It's nice to have you here. David says, in my case, I'm lucky to have an AM stereo station that I can copy pretty well. Yeah, there might be, but I have to check out if I can hear any. Carl Icon AM still has some good local regional sports and sports talk stations, but lots of ads. like WJR 550 out of Buffalo. Jim Gordon says, I've now graduated to bottled Guinness. It's much better, and now I can face Santa. Storms, Radios, and Cats, good evening. Yeah, I gave him the night off. Oh, yeah, William, there's a lot more security around the power in Montreal since the big ice storm of '98. They've added a lot of lines to make sure that the big city doesn't miss out on any power. So here in the city in general, it's rare that we do have, we'll have it. Either it's because of a small, equipment problem, or there's going to be some. Most of the time, we're going to have like a warning in advance that for maintenance reason, we won't have any power for a while. So, hey guys, it's been on for a little more than 3 hours. Hope you enjoyed today's show with Santa. It was a lot of fun. How about we end the show with Moscow Nights from Radio Moscow? So this is going to be the end theme for tonight. I hope everybody has a fantastic Christmas. Everything you want, every radio you can want, and a happy New Year. We're going to be back on Saturday, January 7th at 20 hours Universal Time. So hope everybody will be back in the next 2023 year. And if you'd ask me if I thought that I'd be doing a show about radio in 2023, especially shortwave radio, I'm not sure I would have said yeah. But here we are, 2023, telling the world that shortwave isn't dead. Still a lot of stuff available. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks to all that contributed with tips tonight, going towards the Xiegu G90 transceiver. Stay safe, my friends. And see you on January the 7th at 20 hours Universal Time. Always nice to be here. Always nice to have you on board. So 486 quiet here too. I don't see 486. Nothing. I was wondering if it's really. I'm going to check a few SDRs around the Virginia region. It's supposed to be broadcasting. We're checking it out.
We'd like to inform our North American listeners